Greetings to you all. This is me, Tony, and this is another Phoenician inscription video presentation for you on my YouTube channel and also on my Odyssey channel. The title of this inscription is King Ahirom of Byblos Sarcophagus Phoenician Inscription Revisited KAI-1 and Ahirom Tomb Graffito KAI-2. In this slide and the coming slides, I'm going to show you some photos of the sarcophagus of King Ahirom, which is now present in the National Museum of Lebanon in Beirut. This is another photo of the sarcophagus of King Ahirom of Byblos in Beirut National Museum. Again, this is another photo of the sarcophagus of King Ahirom, Beirut National Museum. This is a sketching of King Ahirom sarcophagus, and we can see here the main scene on one of the sides of the sarcophagus, and we can see the lotus flowers, and then we can see here the inscription on the lid of the sarcophagus, and then we can see here two of the lions on which the sarcophagus stands. So these are part of the sarcophagus limestone. And here we can see also the lid of the sarcophagus. In this slide, we can see the inscription, the Phoenician inscription that is inscribed on the lid of the sarcophagus. And here we can see the lotus flowers that we have mentioned before. King Ahirom sarcophagus, historical background. This is the sarcophagus of King Ahirom of Byblos, who reigned in the 11th century BC and who died circa 1000 BC. King Ahirom of Byblos is not the same King Hiram of Tyre or Hiram of Tyre, friend and ally of King David of Israel, who was mentioned in the Bible. The sarcophagus was discovered by French archaeologist Pierre Montet in Tomb 5 of the Royal Necropolis of Byblos, ancient Gubal, in the year 1923 AD. Its low-relief carved panels make it the major artistic document for the early Iron Age in Phoenicia. Associated items, mainly fragments of alabaster vessels with Ramses II, who reigned from 1290 to 1223, hieroglyphic inscription dating to the late Bronze Age either support an early dating in the 13th century BC or attest to the reuse of an early shaft tomb in the 11th century BC. King Ahirom sarcophagus historical background continued. This sarcophagus in a parallelepiped shape is etched into a limestone rock and is based on 4 crouching lions, 1, 2, 3, and 4. The fourth one is behind. The figures on both sides represent processions. On the first side, which we see here, we see the sovereign or perhaps a god, this is sovereign or a god, on a throne bordered by winged sphinxes. Facing him is a table laid out, which is this one here, where devotees and bearers offerings are progressing. See those people with their offering and progressing to lay their offering in front of the king or the god. While the second side shows devotees in a funeral procession. Along the shorter sides, there are engravings representing women beating their breasts and tearing their hair as a sign of mourning. The heads of lions, these ones here, and one here we can't see, on each side of the cover were used for the opening and closing maneuvers. Traces of red paint still exist on the cover, which indicates that the sarcophagus was painted. King Ahirom sarcophagus historical background. Here we show you some glimpses of the different engravings on the different sides of this sarcophagus. So here we see the lid, the shorter side with the woman, the funeral procession on the back side, the lid, the shorter side with the woman tearing their hair, the lid here, woman tearing their hair with uncovered breasts, the funeral procession here, and the lid. King Ahirom sarcophagus historical background. We see here, this is a picture of the major scene representing a king or the god seated on a throne here, carved with winged sphinxes. So we see this is a winged sphinx here. The priestess offering him a lotus flower. This is the lotus flower that's offered to the king or the god. King Ahirom sarcophagus historical background. Here we have a picture or a photo of the lid. And on the lid there are two male figures, each holding a lotus flower, lying face to face and separated by two lions. This is one lion, this is the other one. Like those on the base of the sarcophagus. We can suppose that these two persons represent King Ahirom wearing the faded lotus flower symbolizing death, and his son ʻTBᶜL bringing the blossoming lotus representing life. King Ahirom sarcophagus historical background, sketching of the lid top. So we can see here the two male figures. So this is probably the figure of representing King ʻTBᶜL with the blossoming lotus flower. And this is probably represents his father, King Ahirom, with the fading lotus flower. Those two figures are separated by two lions. This is one lion head, this is another lion's head, and the tails are meeting in the middle. King Ahirom sarcophagus historical background continued. Most scholars have taken the Ahirom inscription to date from around 1000 BC. The 13th century BC had emerged as a possible date because the sarcophagus was found in a reused grave. It had originally been used in the 13th century. Also, traces of an erased early Proto-Biblian inscription were visible on the monument. An inscription of 38 words is found on parts of the head side and the rimlet of the sarcophagus. It is written in the Old Phoenician dialect of Byblos and is the oldest witness to the Phoenician alphabet of considerable length discovered to date. King Ahirom sarcophagus historical background continued. Halfway down the burial shaft, another short inscription was found incised at the southern wall, the Byblos necropolis Graffito. The three-line Graffito is known as KAI-2. The sarcophagus is now present in the National Museum of Beirut. It is kind of the crown jewel of the museum. During the Lebanese Civil War between 1975 and 1991, the sarcophagus was encased with concrete to protect it from bombs. The museum was at the demarcation lines between the Christian majority east and the Muslim majority west of the city of Beirut. The museum was restored at the end of the war starting in 1995 and was officially reopened in 1997. I personally had the opportunity to visit the museum before migrating to New Zealand in the early years of this millennium. King Ahirom inscription sketching. Here we have the sketching of the inscription itself. So these two lines were found on the head side of the sarcophagus, and these three lines were found on the lid of the sarcophagus. So we are going to decipher these together. So we start with the first line here and this letter here. So this letter is an Aleph letter, followed by a Resh letter, followed by a Nun. So this would read Arun. So this word is Arun. This is a separating mark here, and this letter is the letter Zain. So this read Arun Ze. This letter here is a letter Pe, and this letter is the letter Ain, and this is the letter Lamed. So this would read Arun Ze Pa'ol. Here we think we have the Aleph letter. It's effaced, not very clear. And this is here we have the like an X. It's a Tav. This is a Bet. This is Ain, and this is Lamed. So this would read ᵓTBᶜL. Here we have a separating mark, and then here we have the letter bet and the letter nun. So this would read bin. Here we have the letter aleph, the letter het, the letter resh, and the letter mim. And this would read bin Ahirom. Here we have the letter mim again, the letter lamed, the letter kaf. So this would be milch or milk. Here we have the letter gimel, the letter bet, and the letter lamed. So ᵓ separating mark. Here we have the letter lamed, letter aleph, the letter het, the letter resh, and the letter mim. Ahirom. Here we have the letter aleph, the letter bet, and the letter he. Abihu separating mark. This is the letter kaf that we found also here. Ki. Here we have the letter shin, the letter tav, and here we have the letter he. Vishatihu separating mark. Here we have the letter bet, the letter ain, letter lamed, and the letter mim. So BMLKM. On the lid, we have this letter here is the letter waw or vav. This is the letter aleph. This is the letter lamed. Al. Here we have a separating mark. And here we have the letter mim, lamed, kaf. Milch. Separating mark. Be, bet, mim, lamed, kaf. Mim. So this would be BMLKM or BMLKM. Here we have the letter vav or waw, the letter samek, the letter kaf, ᵓ. And here we have the letter nun, ᵓ. ᵓ. Separating mark, b, samek, nun, mim. Here we think that there's a letter missing, BSKNM. Here we have a separating mark, and then here we have the letter vav or waw, letter tav, letter mim, and the letter aleph. Vatmã. Here we have a separating mark, and then the letter mim, the letter het, the letter nun, and the letter tav. Mihnit. Here we have the letter ain, the letter lamed, and the letter yod. Ali. Here we have the letter gimel, letter bet, and letter lamed. Same word as here. Ali gubal. Separating mark. This is letter waw. Igelli. So this is letter yod, gimel, lamed, igelli. Separating point, mark. Arun. Zen. Aleph, resh, nun. Same word as here. Arun zen. Instead of zain, there's zed, zain, and nun. Here we have a separating mark, and then we have the letter tav, het, tav, sin, pek. Tahtesef. This is the letter het, hoter. That is letter tet, the letter resh. Hoter. Separating mark. And then here we have letter mim, the letter shin, the letter pe, letter tav, tet, and the letter he. Mishpatihu. Here we have the letter tav, letter he, letter tav, letter pe, and letter kaf. تهتفك. Here we have the letter kaf and the letter samek, and the letter aleph, kisa. Here we have the letter mim, the letter lamed, the letter kaf, and the letter he. Milkihu. Here we have the letter Wow, the letter Nun, the letter Het, and the letter Tav. ونحت, ونحت. Here we have a separating mark, and then we have the letter Tav, the letter Be, and the letter Resh. You can see the difference between the Bet and Resh. And we have here the letter Het. تبرح, تبرح. Here we have the letter Ain, the letter Lamed, that would be Al. And then here we have the same word, Gubal. Gimel, Bet, Lamed. We've seen it here, and we've seen it here, Gubal. And then here we have a separating mark. And then we have the letter He and the letter Aleph. Uhu, Uhu. And here we have the letter Yod, Mim, Et, Uyimhi, Uyimhi. Here we have the letter Sin, Samek, or Sin, or Samek. And here we have the letter Pe, and here we have the letter Resh, and the letter He. Siparihu. Here we have the letter Lamed, letter Pe, the letter Pe, Lupep, and here we have the letter Shin, the letter Bet, and the letter Lamed. Shiba, Shabilu, Shabilu. Photo and sketching of the graffito on the tomb wall. Here we have the photo of the graffito on the tomb wall, and here we have the sketching. And we will decipher it together. So this letter would be the letter Lamed, this letter would be the letter Dalet, this letter would be the letter Ain, and this letter would be the letter Tav. And this is a separating mark. And this would read Lada'at, Lada'at. Here we have the letter He and the letter Nun, and this would read Hinne. This is the letter Yod, and we think this is a letter Pe, and this is a letter Dalet. Yupod reads, it reads Yupod. This is letter Lamed, and this is the letter Kaf, sorry. So this would read Yupod Lecha. This is a separating mark. Here we have the letter Tav, the letter Het, letter Tav, Tahat, and this is letter Zain, and this is letter Nun. Tahat Zen. Lada'at, Hinne, Yupod Lecha, Tahat Zen. Sarcophagus inscription using the modified Latin alphabet. Phoenician inscription using the modified Latin alphabet, KAI-1. Here we have two parts. This first part, or this first line, was found on the sarcophagus itself, the head side, and these three lines, or this part of the inscription, was found on the lid of the sarcophagus. And we read it together. Arun ze ᵓTBᶜL bin Ahirom, ᵓy'ĞBᶜL, لأحرام أبيه ᵓTBᶜL. الملخ بملخيم سكن بسكنيم تما محنيت ᵓy'ĞBᶜL ويجل أرون زن تحتسف حطر مشبتيه تهتفك كسا ملقيه نحت تبرح على جبال وهو يمحي سباريه لبب شابيلو. Phoenician inscription using the modified Latin alphabet KAI-2. First line reads Lada'at. Second line reads Hinne yupod lecha. Third line reads Tahat zen. Lada'at hinne yupod lecha tahat zen. This is again the same inscription, and this time I'm using the Hebrew alphabet. And we have the two parts, KAI-1 and KAI-2, and let us read it together. Arun ze ᵓTBᶜL bin Ahirom, ᵓy'ĞBᶜL لأحرام أبيه ᵓTBᶜL. الملخ بملخيم سكن بسكنيم تما محنيت ᵓy'ĞBᶜL ويجل أرون زن تحتسف حطر مشبتيه تهتفك كيسا ملخيه ونحت تبرح على الجبال هو يمحي سيباريه لبيب شابيلو. The second part, Phoenician inscription using the Hebrew alphabet for KAI-2. לדעת הנה יופוד לך תחת זן. An English translation. KAI-1. This coffin was made by ᵓTBᶜL, son of Ahirom, king of Byblos, for Ahirom his father, lo he put him in eternity. Now if a king among kings, and a governor among governors, and a commander of an army shall come up against Byblos, and if he shall uncover this coffin, the scepter of his judiciary shall break, the throne of his kingdom shall overturn, and peace and quietness shall depart from Byblos. And if he shall erase this inscription, his royal robe shall be torn. English translation of KAI-2. Attention! Behold, thou shalt come to grief below. A French translation of KAI-1. Sarcophage qu'a fait ᵓTBᶜL, fils de Ahirom, pour Ahirom son père, quand il l'a placé dans l'éternité. Et si un roi parmi les rois, ou un gouverneur parmi les gouverneurs, ou un commandant en campagne contre Gubal et découvre ce sarcophage, que le sceptre de sa juridiction soit brisé, que le trône de sa royauté soit renversé, et que la paix s'éloigne de Gubal. Et s'il efface cette inscription, que le traîneau de sa robe royale soit coupé. A French translation for KAI-2. Attention, il n'y a rien qui te soit utile là-dessous. Ou bien une autre traduction, avis, voici ta perte là-dessous. An Arabic translation of KAI-1. هذا التابوت الحجري صنعه ᵓTBᶜL ابن أحيرام ملك جبيل لأبيه أحيرام حين وضعه بمثواه الأبدي. أما الآن أي ملك بين الملوك أو أمير بين الأمراء أو قائد جيش في حملة عسكرية ضد جبيل يفتح هذا التابوت الحجري ولينكسر صولجان حكمه ولتنقلب كرسي ملكه ولتبرح السكينة والسلم عن جبيل أو يمحي منقوشته هذه فليمزق ثوب ملكه. An Arabic translation of KAI-2. انتبه سوف تصاب بالغم الشديد هنا في الأسفل. Phoenician vocabulary and grammar from this inscription. The first word we are going to talk about today is the word arun, meaning coffin, sarcophagus, box, chest. Arona in Hebrew, Aruna in Syriac, Arona in Aramaic, Aran in Ugaritic. The next word is the word ze, meaning this. It's a demonstrative pronoun in Phoenician, and I have discussed it in a previous presentation. The word fa'al, it's a verb meaning made, from the verb fa'al meaning make. Discussed in previous presentations. It is similar to Hebrew and Arabic, and the similar word in Arabic would be fa'ala. They pronounce as fa'ala instead of fa'al. The next word we're going to talk about today is the word ᵓTBᶜL, the king. It's a theophoric name, meaning Baal is with him, and it's already been discussed in a previous presentation. Ben Ahirom, meaning son of Ahirom, again discussed in a previous presentation. ᵓTBᶜL, meaning the king of Byblos. لأحرام أبيه, meaning to Ahirom his father. Abihu is the Biblian Phoenician form of the possessive suffix of the third person singular in Tyro-Sidonian Phoenician. It is abiyo. Li is a preposition meaning to or for. Ahirom is the name of the king. It's a theophoric name meaning my brother, the God, the divine, is elevated or exalted. ᵓTBᶜL, meaning lo he placed him in eternity. Ki is a conjunction used here as the representative particle. Shatihu or shatiyo in Syro-Sidonian, meaning place him, set him, similar to Hebrew. In spoken Lebanese, we have the word hatto, which means set a thing or place a thing or a person. B:LM in eternity. B is a locative preposition. Olam is eternity in Phoenician. Eternity in Hebrew is olam. It is alam in Aramaic. It's alamin in Arabic. Al. Al. This is a preposition meaning to, as for, introducing an anticipatory word, phrase, or clause. BMLKM. BMLKM meaning king among kings. Milch is king. Milchim is kings in plural with the M ending for plural in Phoenician. B is a preposition meaning here among. Saken bisakenim. Saken bisakenim meaning and a ruler or a governor among rulers or governors. Soken is ruler in Hebrew. Saknu is ruler in Akkadian. B is a preposition meaning here among. Tama Mihnit meaning commander of an army. Mihna in Arabic means a trial or a very bad time that one goes through. And probably its origin is from Mihnit, which is the word for army. Ali Gubal, meaning to come up, to rise up against Gubal. Gubal is the ancient name of the city of Byblos in Lebanon. Wigalli, meaning shall uncover, similar to the Hebrew vayiktal verb form. Waw is a consecutive with imperfect future verb. Yigalli from verb gala, gila, similar to the Arabic word jala, which means to clear. Arun zen, meaning this coffin. Zen is a demonstrative pronoun, and we have discussed this in a previous presentation. Tahtsap. Tahat is a preposition meaning underneath. Sap meaning basin, cup, bowl. And so this literally means be brought underneath in a basin. And here the meaning is broken or stripped off. Hoter is a feminine noun and meaning the scepter, similar to Hebrew. Mishpatihu is a masculine noun meaning royal authority, imperium, jurisdiction. Tevtfek meaning be overturned from the verb hepok meaning overturn. In Arabic, a similar word would be the verb fakta, which means disassemble or dismantle. Kisa milkihu or milkihu. Kisa meaning chair, throne. It is kursi in Arabic, kisa in Hebrew. Milkihu or milkihu would be milkiyo or milkiyo in Syro-Sidonian Phoenician, meaning here his kingship. The expression means his throne or the throne of his kingdom or kingship. נחת, a feminine noun, meaning peace and quietness. تברח is a verb, meaning here to flee, to disappear. It has already been discussed in a previous presentation. Uhu, meaning and he. Waw is a conjunction. Who is the independent personal pronoun, singular masculine of the third person. It is similar to Arabic huwa. Yemhi, meaning shall efface. It's the yiktol verb in Hebrew, similar to the yiktol verb in Hebrew. In Arabic, yamhi or wayamhi. Siparihu, meaning his book, and in this context, his inscription. It is similar to Hebrew. In Arabic Christianity, Sifr or Asfar is used for the books of the Bible. We say Sifr Ayub, for example, the book of Job, and the books of the Bible, Asfar al-Kitab al-Muqaddas. Lupep, meaning twisted up, torn. In Arabic, a similar word would be lafa'if from verb laffa, meaning to twist up and roll up. Tabilu, meaning train, elongated back portion of a royal dress or a skirt. And there is a similar word in Hebrew. Phoenician vocabulary and grammar from this inscription tomb Graffito, KAI-2. Lada'at. Lada'at is the infinitive construct, strong verb kal form, meaning know, from the verb yada, meaning to know, similar to Hebrew. Hinne, meaning here. A similar word in Arabic would be huna. Yupodlecha, meaning be ruin, disaster for you. Yupod is the kal impersonal construction from verb pid, meaning disaster, ruin. A similar verb in Arabic would be fada, which means die for someone or for a tribe or country. ᵓTBᶜL has read this expression as ba'alak, meaning your master king. And the whole Graffito would read according to ᵓTBᶜL, no, I, your king, am here at the bottom. تحتسف, meaning here underneath or here down below. Ahirom sarcophagus and a glimpse into Phoenician funerary rites. On the two narrow sides of the sarcophagus, we see lamenting women with their bare breasts, beating their breasts and pulling their hair. Those professional lamenter women have torn their clothes as a sign of mourning, exposing thereby their breasts. Rending, tearing one's clothes means that one is stripping oneself of all those different aspects of the significance of clothes in human life. This leads to voluntary and spontaneous self-humiliation and to some extent dehumanization, becoming like animals. This act expresses a powerful gesture in response to a violent and drastic change, like the death of a loved one. This rending, tearing of one's clothes as a sign of mourning persisted in southern Canaan and was accepted in the Bible and is still a custom among Jews up to this day. It's called kriya or kriya in Hebrew, meaning tearing or rending. Ahirom sarcophagus and a glimpse into the Phoenician funerary rites. Kriya is the Jewish tradition of the rending of garments to represent the tear in one's heart when one loses a loved one. It is an expression of grief and anger at the loss of a loved one. The cut or the tear is made towards the left side, the heart's side. Tearing one's garment as a sign of mourning was mentioned several times in the Bible, like in Genesis 37:34, when Jacob did so to lament the loss of his son Joseph. David did the same at the death of King Saul in 2 Samuel 1:11. Job did the same when he lost his children in Job 1:20. Those lamenting women on the sarcophagus did the same. They tore their garments and exposed their breasts as a sign of mourning. Ahirom sarcophagus and a glimpse into the Phoenician funerary rites. Professional lamenters in the Phoenician Canaanite religion were women who were hired by the family of the deceased to weep, wail, and cut themselves to express grief. The goddess Astarte did the same when she mourned her brother Baal, who was killed by his rival, the god Mot, the god of death in the Canaanite pantheon. And we find this in the Canaanite mythological texts from Ugarit. Those lamenting women on the sarcophagus reminded me of the lamenting woman in my home village during funerals. With uncovered heads and hair, but decent clothing, usually black, the color of mourning, being now in the Christian era. A similar picture comes to my mind of a scene at the funeral of the late president of Lebanon, René Mouawad, who was assassinated in 1989. I can remember women wailing at his funeral procession, holding white handkerchiefs in their hands and dancing in sorrow, at his departure in his home city of Sparta in North Lebanon. Ahirom sarcophagus and a glimpse into the Phoenician funerary rites. So Jews tear their shirts when mourning. Lebanese do not do so, but women still at times uncover their heads as a sign of mourning. Funeral processions are still spectacular for Lebanese Christians, especially when the deceased is a young person. The bearers of the coffin would dance with it. In Lebanese culture, the coffin dance symbolizes a defiant rejection of death. Lebanese at times beat their heads, slap their faces, and pull on their hair in mourning. Both men and women do so. Some of them, namely the Shia Islamic sect followers, cut their scalps and those of their children in mourning processions for Imam Hussein, who was assassinated by the Umayyad Islamic Sunni Caliphate on the feast of Ashura. The Bible bans self-harm as a sign of mourning, like cutting oneself or making tattoos for the dead. We read in Leviticus 19:28, "Ye shall not make any cuttings in your flesh for the dead, nor print any marks upon you. I am the Lord." Close quote. Ahirom sarcophagus and a glimpse into Phoenician funerary rites. We see on the sarcophagus funeral processions, both on the front and the back long sides. On the back side, we see lamenters holding baskets of food on their heads and leading domestic animals, here likely a goat, which is reminiscent of what we found in Egyptian pharaonic tombs, representing the deceased estates. So the Phoenicians, like the Egyptians, believed somehow in an afterlife, and that the tomb was a place of eternal rest. No utensils were found in the sarcophagus, only the disintegrated remains of the king's corpus. I'm not going to discuss in this presentation the belief in the afterlife in the Phoenician religion. I'll leave that to a future presentation. On the lid, we see a picture of a father and a son, likely representing ʻTBᶜL and his father Ahirom. One is dead and the other is alive and taking over the kingdom of Byblos, Kubal, and performing his duty as a son, putting his dead father's remains to rest. The lotus flower is overrepresented on the sarcophagus. This flower is native to Egypt, and its presence in Byblos indicates the strong relationship that existed between Egypt and Kubal in the 2nd millennium BC. Ahirom sarcophagus and a glimpse into the Phoenician funerary rites. This is the last slide on the subject. Laying a close family member in a tomb, qabr, noun meaning tomb, and qabar, verb meaning to bury, in Phoenician and Arabic, is a very solemn act in the Phoenician and Lebanese culture. This resonates until today with the Lebanese word ʻħ'burni, which literally means, may you put me in a tomb or bury me, and metaphorically means that I love you too much and I want you to be the one laying me to rest. I have alluded to this custom in my video presentation about the funerary inscription of ʻAbdosir, 534 from Cyprus. Abdosir did not have children to lay him to rest and inscribe his stele. He had to do that himself while he was still alive. You may also read my eulogy for Abdosir, which I have composed in Phoenician. King Ahirom sarcophagus and tomb Graffito Phoenician inscriptions as written by me. We start with KAI-1, and this will be the last reading of this inscription today. Arun Ze, Paol ʻTBᶜL, bin Ahirom, milch Gubal, li Ahirom abihu, ishatihu BMLKM, u'al milch BMLKM, saken BSKNM, ותמא מחנת, עלי גובל, ויגל ארון זה, תחתסף פותר משפטיהו, תהתפך כיסא מלכיהו, ונחת תברח על גובל, והוא ימחי ספריהו, ᵓTBᶜL. The KAI-2 inscription would read, לדעת, הנה יופוד לך, תחת then. King Ahirom sarcophagus final comments. Ahirom sarcophagus is a time capsule from 3,100 years ago. It was found in a tomb which was initially dug in the 12th or 13th century BC and dates to circa 1000 BC. It was discovered 100 years ago and has witnessed since its discovery the creation of the modern country Lebanon and many other important events, including, among others, the Second World War between 1939 and 1945, Lebanon's independence in 1943, the withdrawal of the French army from Lebanon in 1947, and the fall of the Soviet Union in 1989. It endured encased in a concrete shelter like most of us Lebanese, the fratricidal Lebanese civil war between 1975 and 1991. It has also witnessed Lebanon's economic collapse over the past few years and sadly currently Lebanon's failed statehood. King Ahirom sarcophagus final comments. Yet, this sarcophagus continues to radiate Phoenician art, Phoenician culture, Phoenician alphabet, and Phoenician language. This sarcophagus continues to radiate Phoenician humanity with this eternal expression of a special relationship between a father and a son. With the lotus flower all over, the Egyptian symbol of rebirth, the sarcophagus gives us a glimpse of hope for the revival of the Phoenician language and the Phoenician civilization. It has been 14 years since I recorded my first video presentation on YouTube about this same famous inscription. Time flies by like a dream, as it is mentioned in the Book of Psalms. King Ahirom sarcophagus final comments and final slide. I am now, it appears, the last Phoenician on YouTube, like the last crusaders of Indiana Jones in his movie of 1989, trying to remain the custodian of the Holy Grail of the Phoenician language. Yet, my work is nothing but that of a novice in this vast field of phoenicology. We see natural catastrophes these days all around the world, and this ongoing, never-ending fratricidal war in Europe between Russia and Ukraine. We feel disappointed, oppressed, and depressed because of all this evil. In these difficult times, we are in dire need of hope and faith, and like the sarcophagus, we shall, God willing, prevail and express the best of us despite all odds. These are my references for this presentation. References continued. Thank you for watching this video presentation. See you next time. May God bless you and protect you always.